Gina Rippon from the Aston University. She's Pro Vice Chancellor for International at Aston University. To make a short presentation, I'm afraid we've only got a few minutes each. Thank you.
While they're booting this up, I'll give you a bit of background. I was asking somebody how I should prepare a presentation for a roundtable discussion. And they said, don't say too much, because the important speakers will already have covered what needs to be said. Ask questions, don't give answers, because people don't want to hear what you think. They want a chance to say what they think. And when you've finished, give them food for thought, then just sit down and shut up. So this isn't a clue that that's my presentation and I'm now going to sit down, but it gives you a background as to why I actually have put the material in the form that I have. Okay, so I've already lost the first two slides, but here we go to the third slide. What I actually did was try to group what I saw as the challenges for higher education into three broad areas, and as you'll already see, I've got an obsession with alliteration, but hopefully it will help you to remember what I think are the key issues. And also, you will already think, but that's not just true of the UK. You're representing the UK, you're representing Aston University, you're representing a university which is well known for its employability, the way it embeds employability in its curriculum. So why are we covering these particular areas? But I think I will, as I go through these, give an indication of where I think they're particularly true for the UK, but all of you here will already be thinking these are challenges for our universities as well. Okay, so going through these then, digital delivery, which is really about the impact of technology on how we teach and what we teach. I appreciate the use of the term avalanche, which we've already heard today, is really a provocative metaphor. But I think it's quite a useful way of thinking about how the sector has responded to the challenge of digitization and digital delivery. It's made a huge impact on how we teach, what we teach, where we teach. But I think we need to be careful. An avalanche sweeps everything away and completely changes the landscape. It's a clean sweep. We scramble to get out of the way of the snow, to pursue the metaphor. No pause for thought, and we leave everything behind us. It's probably better if we think in terms of evolution, adaptation. We need to build on those skills that have brought us to where we are. Don't just throw away past pedagogical successes because we can no longer put them onto a PowerPoint. We need to take the best of what we have done and support what we will do. We're dealing with digital natives. In the UK, and this may be true of other countries, we've already got nursery children who are doing their homework on PowerPoints. So by the time they get to us at university, they expect a lot of us. They've been dealing with with technology all their lives, and they expect us to know what we're doing. And that's a real challenge and something that we should confront. Some of our colleagues think that the most exciting thing that has happened in their life is the advent of PowerPoint. And it's quite difficult to train them to say there are other ways of using technology that we must confront, because the people that we are teaching are used to this information and expect the information to be handed in a particular way. And speaking also, I have another hat as a cognitive neuroscientist. I think digitization and the way in which we process information has changed and is changing. And we need to be really careful to be aware that the people that we are teaching have a different way of processing information and expect information to be processed in a different way. Talking about the MOOCs effect, apologize for using the M word again, but we have to be very careful. A lot of people have already said MOOCs are not the answer, although I do notice just recently that FutureLearn is going to provide the platform for the British Council to teach English in India. So MOOCs is the answer for the British Council in some fora. But I think what we need to say is if MOOCs isn't the answer, it's certainly a stimulus. It's made us think very carefully about what we should be putting in the curriculum. If knowledge is everywhere, what we should be focusing on is making sure that our students understand this knowledge. and I won't go on as a kind of separate issue about the fact that knowledge is everywhere. Plagiarism is a huge challenge for universities, because if you can go and download all sorts of essays from all over the world, it is a problem. The final bit I put here is that we now have more students studying UK courses overseas via TNE, transnational education, than actually in the UK. So that is a UK sort of specific challenge, and other countries may already have experienced that. And that really means that we have to think quite carefully about where our students are, the fact that they're not all in front of us, that they're not interacting with each other in a particular way. So it does mean that there's another challenge in terms of actually teaching courses overseas, teaching to people that we don't see face to face. We need to know that online and blended learning is different, and it's a challenge for us as educators. Okay, the next are my Ds, decentralization and deregulation. Again, I won't go into this in detail because I'm sure everybody has got examples of the challenges this presents to higher education. But I think we need to be aware that the framework of higher education is dissolving, literally in that we're no longer talking about a single campus where we do all our teaching, but also conceptually in that the package of the degree, if you like, is unraveling. So that what we really need to say is, if we think that what we've been doing for hundreds of years in the UK, for example, I do know that that's not something we have to respond to, by the way, in case you all think we should be, we should be leaving the room. We have to say that one of the problems perhaps for the UK is what I've called here historical complacency and inertia. We've thought that we have a university, we deliver degrees, we've been doing it for hundreds of years, we've been doing very well, the UK higher education is recognised across the world as a high-class product. So what the UK needs to be aware of, that things are changing. They're changing in the world as well as in the UK, and that we might have to start thinking the unthinkable, that actually it's not to do with what university you're at, it's how that information that you're dealing with has been presented. It may be that the degree is not still the best package. If we're going to talk about unbundling, which is another concept that we haven't touched on, the idea that a student could be collecting information over a period of years from a variety of different sources is possibly something which will address much better the needs of the 21st century students, but something which the 20th century and hopefully coming into the 21st century academics need to be aware of and need to challenge. And of course the issue of that is that we have problems with maintaining what I'd proudly called the gold standard of the QAA. Because if you've no longer got a single package in a single place, it's quite difficult to check the challenge. And this is a summary from another publication about the challenges of the 21st century, which really says that universities need to know that the world around us is changing fast and our students need something different. If we aren't aware of that, we'll just become marginalized and protectionist. But bringing with it all of those changes is a challenge for quality assurance. And I won't go into that in a lot of detail. Some of you, I know, will have examples, and there's a whole session on that tomorrow. So finally, the demographics of demand, and I realized I missed a trick. It could have been a fourth D. It should be the demographics and demand, in fact, because not only are we looking at who wants what and where they are, but it's also that the demand itself is changing. So for the UK, particular challenge that we have is that we're actually looking at a declining number of 18-year-olds. So we need to think that we should be looking for students elsewhere, different sources of students. And some of the countries that we've been proud to welcome students from, China, for example, they also have a demographic change which will impact on the teaching in the UK and the nature of the populations that we're teaching. The fees regime, as we've already heard, the fees regime in the UK has changed a lot. Very suddenly, in the US, people laugh at the fact that we're paying £9,000 a year for our university education, but it's something which has produced a challenge and a demand in the UK. And it may be that UK students will go elsewhere. It may be that other courses are being delivered in English. We already have a lot of students going to Maastricht, for example. So it's something that UK has to challenge. I could have given a whole talk of challenges for the UK on the UK Borders Agency, but I'm sure all of you are probably bored about how we go on about the problem with UK Borders Agency. But it's something we need to be aware of, and that the higher education, working with government, needs to look very carefully at its immigration policies if they're going to encourage students to attend. And this is where, again, I come back to the comment that we now have more students studying UK courses overseas. Could it be because they don't find the UK a welcoming environment? And that's certainly something that we need to actually say to our governments, to make sure that they realise students need to move around. There is cross-border mobility that we mustn't prevent in any way. So this is the point at which I say thank you very much, and I will sit down and shut up.